I'm more than happy to listen to the cries of judicial activism. But we can no longer sit here and just pick when we like it and when we don't because it fits the politics of our time or the narrative that we're interested in. You know, when my Republican colleagues cozy up to neo-Nazis and the Proud Boys and white supremacist groups.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, I find that offensive that the gentleman would make a broad statement like that. And I think that he should back that up with any individual, but not a broad group. That would be inappropriate for me and untrue.
Don't worry, I'm getting to the part you'll like.
Well, I don't, perhaps you are. I find it offensive that you have used this forum.
Sure, no problem. Donald Trump had dinner with a Holocaust denier at his house. You want more facts?
Then use that, sir.
Sure, no problem. Listen, I'll make this bipartisan. I'll vote for the Hunter contempt today. You can get my vote. You can get my vote. But I want you to show the American people that you're serious. Here is the subpoena to Representative Scott Perry, who did not comply. I'd like to enter this into the record. Here is the subpoena to Mark Meadows. I'd like to enter this into the record, who did not comply. Here is the subpoena to Jim Jordan, who did not comply with a lawful subpoena. I'd like to enter that into the record. Here is the subpoena to Mo Brooks, who did not comply. I'd like to enter that into the record. Here is the subpoena to Mr. Biggs, who did not comply. I'd like to enter that into the record. And here's the subpoena to Mr. McCarthy, who did not comply. I'd like to enter that into the record. There's an amendment coming to add some of those names into the contempt order. You vote to add those names and show the American people that we apply the law equally, not just when it's Democrats, right? It's a crime when it's Democrats, but when it's Trump and the Republicans, it's just fine. No, show that you're serious and that everyone is not above the law. Vote for that amendment, and I'll vote for the Hunter Biden contempt. You want to talk about a wall? You're talking to a wall. They're a wall. They don't want to help kids. By the way, they don't want to solve this issue either. Again, don't listen to me. Just listen to the speaker, who was caught on a call the other day saying that we can't solve the border crisis until after the election. By the way, here's Congressman Troy Niels giving it all away. Giving it all away. Let's read this. Let me tell you, when he's talking about immigration, let me tell you, I'm not willing to do a darn thing right now to help a Democrat, to help Joe Biden's approval rating. I will not help the Democrats try to improve this man's dismal approval ratings. I'm not going to do it. He's saying he's not going to do anything on the border. And he's from Texas, which needs help. He's not going to do anything because he doesn't want to give Joe Biden a win. You know, we have failed to pass comprehensive immigration reform up here for decades. But if you listen to the witnesses, some of them, and if you listen to my colleagues, you would think the world didn't begin until President Biden was elected. You would think it was dinosaurs, the wheel, Jesus, the world was flat, the world was round, Biden was elected, every problem. Like nothing happened before. You know, people pretend like everything was just perfect. But you know what? One of my colleagues, when bringing up statistics, showed why this is a farce. She brought up that President Obama deported more people than President Trump. In fact, President Obama deported more people in each term than President Trump. Well, hold on a second. If the border wasn't a problem until President Biden was elected, then how were we deporting all of these people in administrations before Trump was elected? It's because this situation has been going on for decades. So stop lying to the American people that none of this happened until President Biden was elected. Pleasure to be here at this lovely filler hearing. It's not gone, I don't think, exactly as my colleagues thought it would go. You know, sometimes when I sit here, I often think to myself, who's in the room when these things get planned out? And like let's decide who we're gonna call. I don't know, let me find some sympathetic people to bring to this hearing today. Let me find a giant bankrupt corporation. Let me find an oil guy to talk about the Gulf of Mexico 12 times and how our national parks are getting better because of the Gulf of Mexico. Not really during the BP oil spill, but we won't go into that. I mean, we talk about judicial activism. I mean, I often think to myself, like, what was it not judicial activism when we had a judge meet with U.S. senators and say privately that Roe v. Wade was precedent on precedent, and then go in front of the Senate under oath and say the same thing, and then in their very first time, right, take back a law that had been there for 50 years? That's not judicial activism. And by the way, it would be an anomaly, except it didn't happen once, it happened twice, 2 judges. When my Republican colleagues support a president of the United States who's having dinner with a Holocaust denier at his house and they remain silent, silence is complicity. When there are Nazis,
Mr. Sessions.
I would like my time
Mr.
back,
Chairman,
Mr. Chairman.
well, I'm sure you'll get that back. Broad statements are inappropriate and are not worthy of this hearing.
I know you're in denial that he had dinner with a Holocaust
I was
denier.
unaware of it. So for you to assume that
That was
because there's-
national news for like a week.
that matters not.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say, Mr. Chairman, is this hearing needs to stay very cordial and very much on the level. And attacks like this are exactly why our country is going through what we're going through. And
Mr. Chairman, there needs to be a point of order actually in this.
There's no point of
Thank
order.
you, Mr.
I
Chairman.
called nobody out other than the former president of the United States, Donald
That
Trump.
is not correct, sir. You referred to Republicans.
Mr. Chairman, there needs to be a point of order,
That
please.
is, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that you please admonish the people of this subcommittee and that we are trying to make progress together.
Mr. Chairman, there needs to be a point of
About
order.
each other.
Yeah, and I'd like my time back, Mr.
We
Chairman.
need a point of order. You will get your time back. We're not running the clock. Okay. If there's no point of order, just continue.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll go back to what I was previously saying, is that when Republican colleagues, not all of them, but some Republican colleagues cozy up to neo-Nazis and the Proud Boys and white supremacist groups.
Mr. Chairman, I would like for you to please.
Sir, there's no point of order
we need
here.
a point of order.
I know this is
Okay.
uncomfortable, but I want to get through this. So it's just a paragraph, and we'll be fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see you after a long break. So I'm listening to the gentlelady from South Carolina about the witness being afraid to come in front of the committee.
What are you afraid of? You have no balls to come up here and...
Mr. Chairman, point of inquiry.
Mr. Chairman,
If
The ladies recognize-
I'm not-
If the gentlelady
Play
wants to hear from Hunter
stupid
Biden, we can hear from him right now, Mr.
and you
Chairman.
win
Let's take a
stupid
vote and
prizes.
hear from
I'm
Hunter Biden.
speaking.
What are you
women
afraid
allowed
of?
to speak?
Hold on,
here?
hold on.
Why-
Order,
why are you
order,
guys not
order.
willing to let
Ms.
us
Are
Mace,
women
Ms.
allowed to
Mace.
speak in
All
here
right.
or no?
Okay.
Are women allowed to speak in here or no?
Order.
Did you keep interrupting me?
I'll interrupt the
You keep
chairman. I don't know
interrupting.
that he's a lady. It's interesting. He's here. He doesn't seem to be too afraid. In fact, for some reason, the chairman, who on multiple occasions invited the witness to come on TV, so apparently the chairman wants to pretend like his statements on television or in interviews don't matter, but it didn't happen once, it didn't happen twice, it happened multiple times. The chairman said the witness can choose whether to come to a deposition or to a public hearing in front of the committee. The witness accepted the chairman's invitation. It just so happens the witness is here. If the committee wants to hear from the witness and the chairman gave the witness that option, then the only folks that are afraid to hear from the witness with the American people watching are my friends on the other side of the aisle. I don't know if there's a proper motion, Mr. Chairman, but I'll make a motion. Let's vote. Let's take a vote. Who wants to hear from Hunter right now, today? Anyone? Come on. Who wants to hear from Hunter?
Motion's out of order. Yeah.
No one. So I'm a visual learner, and the visual is clear. Nobody over there wants to hear from the witness. Oh, there's one. Thank you.
Will you yield for a question?
I'm not there yet, but I will eventually. So there's no one, well, other than one or two, that want to hear from the witness. So the majority of my colleagues over there, including the chairman, don't want to hear from the witness with the American people watching. So, Mr. Chairman, I just want to hear from you. Will you acknowledge that you invited the witness on television to choose whether he could come to a public hearing? And do you stand by your words, or do you renege that invitation to the witness?
To answer the question, I've said repeatedly, after the deposition, Mr. Biden can come in front of a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to play the video, but that is not what you said on television multiple times. We have the quotes. We can put them up. You said the witness can choose between a deposition
Listen,
or...
Mr. Moskowitz, Mr. Biden doesn't make the rules. We make the
No, Mr. Chairman, you make the rules. And the rule you made is that he can choose.
the rule is...
Those were your words, reclaiming my time.
He was issued 2 lawful subpoenas.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. No, you issued those subpoenas after he took you up on your invitation to come, and then you were like, oh, no, oh my God, what did I do? I invited him to come so the American people can hear his side of the story. I put my foot in my mouth, so now I must bury him in the basement where we can decide what we're going to release to the public so that we can continue to tell that story.